Hello, everyone. This is Desiree Wayland with the Wayland team, and I'm excited to discuss with you today how Q3 went within our region and do a little brief overview with how the market did during the quarter here nationwide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, get right into it. And there we go. Share. Can everybody see everything? There we go. All right. Well, welcome again. So what we're going to do is start with the Wilmington MSA. What that is that's an overview of the three areas that I work within, which is New Hanover County, Brunswick County, as well as Pender counties. So what we saw during Q3 is supply versus demand, and inventory was definitely flat. Absorption was softer during the quarter, near the quarter end. We had in active listings, that's July, August, September. As you can see, they were a little kind of just flat. However, when you compare it to last September of 24, we were up 21%. We are at we're kind of a little flat with our month's supply going from 3.67, 3.8 to 4. New listings eased a bit. We're at 1414, 1389, 1351. But again, when you compare it to last year, we were up. Pendings dipped a little bit from 1175, 1048 to 1074. We did notice that our season usually starts to you'll see the seasonality change starting in around later September, but it actually started end of August, beginning of September this year. So the seasonality certainly started sooner than anticipated. The closings were down a bit, 1177, 1130, and 1017. However, we did have a 9% increase over last year. Our medium sales price is kind of up and down from about 400, 425, and then 405. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more, especially when we get into Brunswick County, because those numbers are definitely a little bit, we want to look into that one a little bit more. Days on market are increasing slightly, kind of staying flat around 70 days total, but we were up about 10% over last year. And then the days on actually 20%. And then we have about a 4%, 4-month inventory right now too. When you look at Brunswick County, the active listings is we have 2,511 up to 2,557, a little flat. New listings coming on the market, but like with the average, we were up over 24% with active listings from last year, and new listings at 23%. Now, I do want to say that Brunswick County is a little bit different than New Hanover and Pender County in that Brunswick County has a lot of space. So they have a ton of opportunity for new home development. And we did see, which is great for affordability, we saw a lot more companies, like nationwide companies, coming in and offering price points in the 200,000 range. Nice little 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, brand new, around 225. Give or take. So that has really helped a lot of people get into a market that, when you look nationally, the average price point is over 400,000, and that's the same here. So it gives people a little in for themselves. With closed sales, we had about 641, 624, and then 545. So again, July, August, September. The median sales price has been a little flat with 360, 391, 376. Again, that if you took out some of that new home inventory, we would probably see at the average price point in the 4 range, kind of similar to what you'll see with New Hanover County. And days on market are flat at 79, 78 days. That is up from last year at 65 days on the market. And right now you have about 4 to 4.5 months on the market as well. You do have more choices for buyers, and pricing did cool in Brunswick County, and you pretty much everywhere that you see in all the 3 different counties themselves. Then you have New Hanover County. We have 1,278 listings to 1,246. New listings kind of averaged out at the 400 range, definitely up 24% from last year. And then closed sales. Now in New Hanover County, though, we saw a decline from last year in closed sales. So you had 396, 364, and 319, where we saw almost a 4% decrease from the year before. The median sales price is 465, 470. And then last year we saw it's probably down about 2%. Keep those numbers in mind because you'll see how they are very similar to the nationwide numbers too. We just are pretty much tapped out here in New Hanover County. There's some opportunity in Castle Hayne to build, but you'll kind of see the pricing, you'll notice kind of maybe constricting a little bit going forward. Then we have Pender County at 536, 561, and 529 new listings or active listings. And then the new listings, keep in mind Pender County is a small little county that has, Topsail Island. So those numbers are a little bit different than what you'll see, and the activity is definitely different than what you see in New Hanover and Brunswick County. The pending sales are about flat. Closed, definitely more you'll see in the coming months a little bit, just because it is a beach town and a lot of people start selling their homes on the beach, and then people are buying them to get them ready for the January, to get them fixed up and get ready for rentals. We had a median price point of 470 to about 391. And then that is actually up a little bit of 3%. You're seeing a 40% increase over last year when it comes to days on the market. Last year we saw about 50. Now you're seeing about 70 days. And so we have about a 4-month supply as well. You have a tighter supply. Closings are up and median prices down. What to know? So sellers, price your house correctly, price it for what your market is doing. We have these little micro markets, so knowing what your market, your particular neighborhood is doing is going to be super important. And just because your neighbor last year sold their house 2 years ago for a certain price doesn't necessarily mean that is what you're going to get. You might be in a neighborhood where you're still seeing prices increasing, but you might be in a neighborhood that there's a lot of that type of home, and so you're seeing pricing that they sold it at 2 years ago. Now, this is a wonderful market for buyers because there is so much to pick from, and there's a little bit more negotiation room, and sellers are coming to terms with that just because it says it's 400,000 doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're going to, stick to. So look at what the comps say, and and you'll have that power more so than you did a couple of years ago, especially with new home builds. And talking about Brunswick County, a lot of the national home builders are offering rate buy downs, discounts, seller concessions, so you could get yourself a really nice home with not much going out of your pocket. And they may even offer you a refrigerator or blinds. So if you are a new home buyer, that's going to be really important for you to know. When you look at nationally, you'll see kind of the similarities to our area. The seasonally adjusted annual rate is about 4 million for existing homes. It's up about 1.5% month over month. And then we have a 4.1% year over year in September. The median home price is 415,000, which is slightly up. A year over year gain, which is the 27th year straight. And then with inventory, we are about 14% up month supply, and we're about flat. What that means to you, if you are buying or selling a home here in our area, most of the times people are either moving out of the area or moving into our area. So we look at what's going on in the national market to help you figure out how long it's going to take, because once it starts slowing down in certain areas, we notice it here about 3 months later. About 33 days on the market. There's a mix of 30% first-time home buyers, 30% cash. And I know people sometimes, think that we're going to have this huge distressed market. And I have been through that distressed market, and this is an entirely different market. In fact, that the lenders don't want to put somebody's home in a foreclosure, and they will do everything they can to keep you in that home. So, and this is really good news. So in July, we saw rates at 6-7%, and now they're at 6.19%. And if you have a VA or an FHA loan, you're down in the 5s. And then if you have your seller buying your rate down, goodness, you can be, in the 3 or 4%. So in Q4, what you want to see is mortgage rates. Lawrence Yoon, who's the chief economist for NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, he believes that you will see, at least one more rate cut or 2 rate cuts this year, with anticipation of 3 to 4 in 2026. He's very optimistic with that. But I always take these with a grain of salt, because over the last several years, the economists provide their information, and it always hasn't been the most accurate. But everything's changing. And when I go into a listing appointment, I always tell them, look, every week, it's week to week. And so what I'm going to tell you today, what your house may sell for, may be different if we don't put it on the market for another month. What we're seeing is new listings, which is great. We're seeing price reductions and month supply in each county. So that and I talked about that a little bit earlier about the micro market. So here's a really good example. So in Brunswick County, if you were to sell your townhome right now, you have to understand that you're going to have to price it incredibly well. If it's a resale, it needs to look fantastic. You got to paint, do all the things to it, or really price it for that, because there's so much available with new homes from builders that's where you're seeing home pricing from 2 years ago. So days on market, you will start to see increase a little bit through Q4, because we are through the holidays, which is normal. However, if you do want to sell your house, the buyers that are coming to your home are really serious. These are the people who want to buy a house. They're not the looky-loos. Builder inventory and incentives, talked a little bit earlier about that they want to get their homes off their sheets this year. And so you're going to start seeing some really drastic price reductions, not so much with the little mom and pop companies, but definitely with your DR Hortons and your Ryan Homes. Insurance availability and premiums. Right now, because of the shutdown, if you are looking to buy a home that requires flood insurance, they are not offering it right now. So you will have to go get private flood insurance. But from what I understand, is that it's almost the same price. Now, you don't have to have flood insurance if you have a loan, but that's up to you. The shutdown is affecting those FHA and VA loans. It's just a slower process, and the USDA back loans have stopped for right now. But I think everybody's encouraged to hope that the shutdown ends soon. But wanted to make you aware. So I know that was pretty quick, but I think that gave you the nuts and bolts of what we saw in Q3. If you would like a sheet on this, I have this little sheet that I created, little notes of what we just talked about that I am more than happy to send you. And if you're interested in buying or selling a home, please feel free to give me a call. Even if it's not for another year or two, that's okay. We actually just closed on somebody who was on our website for 10 years. So we are patient. And if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. I'm here to help. And you guys have a wonderful day.